Hi, my name is Michael Padilla, and this is my final video for Global Curanderismo. For part one, I am going to go over some limpias that we learned about. I begin with healing through music, which is African traditional medicine. We learned from the Buiti, which helps with connections to the spirits. They use musical instruments such as the monago, which is an arc, and the bow represents the earth and the string represents the sky. We also learned of a tike, which is a horn to call spirits, the nagatimi, which is a harp, and the harp, it reinforces valor and it's always used with a rattle, and the koala, which is red bark of the paddock tree. Next, we learned about African Latino healing, which I believe is the most familiar to me growing up. That's what I was exposed to, where we see the use of music, dance, plants, water, air, earth. Again, it honors the four directions, north, south, east, and west. Next, African Cuban influence, where we see connections to Santeria, and we see the use of coffee, smoke, herbal, and coffee. We learned about the use of yerba fina, which is Bermuda grass, which can be used for heart and cancer issues, and maravilla, which is a 4 o'clock, which can be used for intestinal blockage. In Cuba, they use coconut instead of cola. Cola is not available, but coconut is considered in that culture a sacred conductor. We then went to African Puerto Rican traditional medicine, where we learned about Seriyai, which is a cleansing to get rid of negative energy. We see the use of plants, leaves, and fabric. They will be used, the leaves and fabric together, or the leaves and the plants. They also use color. Red represents life, or bottom, and black represents death, or the top. We then next hopped over to Peru, where we learned about Firmino, the use of tobacco, which was also used in Cuba for spiritual cleansing. There they use copal, smoke, sound, eggs, plants. The smoke helps form a connection with the supernatural power. Women use the smoke for steam baths. It's important when using smoke to know that it forms a protection barrier, so you do not want to wipe away the smoke. So if a woman is using it for a steam bath, it's important to use to not wipe it away. So we then go to Native American traditional healing, and it's important to understand that birds are an important symbol to Native Americans. So we see traditional healing with where we see feather healing. We see the use of feathers, and instead of copal, sage is burned. It's important here in this healing to know that for men, the healing is done from the bottom up, and for women, it's from the top down. Next, I want to talk about acupuncture a little bit, and Chinese acupuncture is something that I was familiar with acupuncture points, the use of salt. I did learn about moxa sticks, and that one moxa stick is equivalent to 10 acupuncture points, so that is something that people like to use and readily available. One thing I wasn't familiar with was Mayan acupuncture, which is similar to Chinese acupuncture. However, one difference is that the acupuncture begins with the needle between the eyes. hot and cold is incorporated into this traditional healing. And the next thing I want to talk about is massage. And in the book by Dr. Torres and Miranda, 2017, they tell us that Alex Jackson believes that the abdomen is the doorway to achieving balance. Massage is very important. We see that in use a lot today in our society. The next thing we discussed was bone setting, which is body adjustment, which unfortunately, well, this is similar to chiropractic care, and unfortunately it's a fading practice due to regulation, and there is some risk. Alcohol is used in this limpia to open and close pores. We also learned about cupping, fire cupping, where alcohol is sprayed into a cup of some sort, ignited, and then placed on the body, forming a vacuum. This is used to remove toxins. And then the last limpia I want to talk about is hydrotherapy, water healing. And for hydrotherapy, this is often used for your feet being cold. You can place the feet in a hot bucket, and then with hot plants. It's also used for to cleanse the whole body. You could place the person into a tub or a big bathtub. You can also spray the person with the hose to detoxify the body. The last thing I want to talk about, which is going to run into part 2 a little bit, is sacred spaces for healing. I talked about this a little bit in my midterm video. It's important to me because there are connections to my family. This provides emotional, inspirational, and spiritual healing. We see the use of water, feathers, and there's always seeds in the sacred spaces. And it's important to know that to open the space, you have to ask permission to smudge with smoke. Sacred spaces represent animals, earth, water, colors, flowers, and helps conduct or make connections to heaven and earth, or brothers and sisters. For part 2, I chose Dia de los Muertos, which has connections to Mesoamerican belief. It's loved ones do this annually, and Dia de los Muertos takes place on October 31st. I was not aware that on November 1st is for honoring infants and children, and on November 2nd honors deceased adults. In Dr. Torres's book, 2019, Dr. Torres tells us that according to traditions, we celebrate because the gods have allowed the spirits of our loved ones from the 13 heavens to visit Earth. And so with that, I worked with one of my classmates to create a ofrenda, and I'm going to go over that really quickly with you. So my ofrenda is to honor my mother and father that have passed away, and my parents loved gardening, so I have chili and fruits and vegetables to represent. I talked about always having seeds. I have some candles, our family Bible. My mother used to love to sew, so I have her sewing pin cushion here, some of her necklaces with saints on there, a little saint. We love to go to the Zozobra, so I have a little Zozobra statue, our family Bible, and some of my gifts from when I was born were on my mother's altar. So I have those here, some of her flowers and Vienna sausages. So that is my ofrenda, and I just want